Let's go back to 1942. American heavy bombers are flying straight into the heart of Nazi Germany, and they're being systematically, brutally slaughtered. The entire daylight bombing campaign, which was America's #1 strategy for breaking the Third Reich's war machine, was hanging by a thread. It was on the verge of total collapse. But out of this desperation, a radical new idea was born. An idea forged in the frozen, deadly skies over Europe that would change absolutely everything. This is the story of how they did it. 3 seconds. I want you to just think about that for a moment. That is all the time a German fighter pilot had with a closing speed of over 500 miles per hour. Head on, they had exactly 3 seconds from the moment they opened fire to the instant they had to wrench their plane away to avoid a collision. 3 seconds to kill a B-17 flying fortress. And for a terrifying stretch of the war, 3 seconds was more than enough time. So, here is the central problem for the U.S. 8th Air Force, and it was a huge one. Their whole strategy depended on precision, daylight bombing deep inside Germany. But here's the catch. Their fighter escorts, planes like the Spitfire, they just didn't have the gas to make the round trip. That meant the bombers were completely on their own, flying through hundreds of miles of hostile airspace with a determined and incredibly skillful enemy waiting for them. They had to figure out a way to defend themselves, or this entire campaign was doomed from the start. And it didn't take long for the Luftwaffe to find their Achilles heel. A brilliant German ace, a guy named Egon Meyer, he figured it out. He realized the B-17 was practically blind and defenseless from the front. I mean, look at this tactical nightmare. You've got the bombardier and navigator in that big plexiglass nose with a couple of manually aimed guns, and that's it. So Meyer pioneered the head-on attack, racing straight at the bombers, concentrating all of his cannon fire right into the cockpit, right at the pilots. It was absolutely devastating. For the 10-man crews inside these planes, reality was a special kind of hell. Just try to imagine this. You spend 8 to 10 hours inside a rattling, freezing aluminum tube. You're flying at altitudes where the outside temperature is 40 degrees below zero. You're breathing through an oxygen mask, wearing an electrically heated suit that could short out at any moment, leaving you to freeze. And all the while, you are being hunted by fighters and bracketed by the black puffs of exploding anti-aircraft shells. You are completely and utterly alone. The man tasked with solving this impossible problem was a colonel named Curtis LeMay. Now, LeMay was a brilliant navigator, for sure, but more importantly, he was a cold, demanding, and completely pragmatic commander. He didn't care about tradition. He didn't care about theory. He only cared about results. And he was about to invent a formation so lethal, so effective, that the Germans themselves would give it a terrifyingly accurate nickname. LeMay's whole philosophy was built on 3 really simple but ironclad ideas. First, to hit a target from 5 miles up, you had to fly a perfectly straight and level bomb run, even if you were flying through a solid wall of flak. No evasive action. Second, scattered bombers are dead bombers. The only way to survive was to pack them in so tightly that their guns could protect each other. And third, you drill, and you drill, and you drill, until flying this way becomes pure muscle memory. And this was his solution, the combat box. LeMay's first design, which he called Javelin Down, was nothing short of geometric genius. He arranged 18 bombers, not just side by side, but stacked up vertically, kind of like a set of stairs. If you looked at it from the side, it looked like a spear point aimed down. And what this did was create these incredible interlocking fields of fire. Suddenly, there were no more blind spots. Every angle was covered. But LeMay didn't stop there. He kept refining it, expanding the concept. Pretty soon, 3 of these 18-plane groups would fly together as what they called a combat wing. That's a 54-plane formation. Now, let's just think about the firepower here. Each B-17G would eventually carry 13.50 caliber machine guns. So a full combat wing could bring a staggering 702 heavy machine guns to bear on any attacker. It was literally a fortress in the sky. Now, don't just take my word for it. This quote from a German ace, Hannes Knoke, tells you everything you need to know about what it was like from the other side. Like flying into a wall of fire. Can you imagine being that pilot? You dive in for the attack, and suddenly the sky just erupts with hundreds of streams of red tracer rounds, all of them converging right on you. No wonder the Germans started calling it the Fliegendes Stachelschwein, the flying porcupine. Of course, having a brilliant theory on paper is one thing, but proving it works when lives are on the line, that's something else entirely. The combat box had to be tested and perfected in the most unforgiving laboratory on Earth, the skies over Nazi Germany. And the formation evolved at a stunning pace, as you can see right here. It started with a basic 3-plane V. Then, in December, LeMay introduced his 18-plane box. By January, they'd already learned from combat that the low squadron was the most vulnerable, so they added 3 more planes to protect them, making it a 21-plane group. And within a few months, that massive 54-plane wing became the standard for every major raid. They were literally learning and adopting in real time, with life and death as the stakes. Flying in this formation took almost superhuman skill and discipline. I mean, the pilots were fighting the violent, turbulent prop wash from the plane just a few feet in front of them. Their muscles were screaming with fatigue from wrestling the heavy controls for hours on end in the bitter, bitter cold. But holding that formation was absolutely non-negotiable. And the reason why is just stark. If you fell out of the box, you became a straggler. And once you were alone, the fighters would swarm you like sharks. Your life expectancy was measured in minutes. Less than 5 minutes, on average. But this new formation was about to face its ultimate, most brutal test. On October 14, 1943, the 8th Air Force launched a second massive raid on the ball-bearing factories at Schweinfurt, deep in the heart of Germany. It was a target so critical to the German war machine, they had to go, even though they knew they wouldn't have fighter escort for most of the way. That mission would go down in history as Black Thursday. And the Luftwaffe was waiting. They threw everything they had at the bomber stream. We're talking over 300 fighters, attacking in relentless, coordinated waves. And they'd learned, too. They didn't just attack the whole formation at random. They concentrated their forces on a single group at a time, trying to overwhelm its defenses with sheer numbers and shatter the box from within. The price they paid was horrific. Of the 291 bombers that set out that morning, 60 were shot down in flames. Dozens more were so badly damaged they were just scrap for parts. All told, 26% of the attacking force did not come back. That's 650 young men killed, captured, or missing in a single afternoon. The losses were completely and utterly unsustainable. To really understand what was at stake for these men, you have to listen to this. The night before that raid, a 22-year-old ball turret gunner named Harold Graham wrote this in a letter home. Read those words. The formation will protect us. The formation gives us that chance. It is an incredible, unbelievable testament to the faith these men had, not just in the machine, but in the system and in each other. His only hope, his only chance for survival, was the box. Staff Sergeant Graham was killed the next day. His bomber was hit, it caught fire, and went into a spin. Only 3 men from his crew got out. He wasn't one of them. The sheer human cost of this strategy, of this one single day, it's staggering. Now, on the surface, Black Thursday looked like a catastrophic failure. Many people back in command thought this was the end of the American daylight bombing strategy. But here's the thing, it wasn't a failure of the combat box. The formation had actually worked. The bombers that managed to stay in the box had a much, much higher survival rate. It was the brutal final proof that one crucial piece of the puzzle was still missing. And here it was, the missing piece, the P-51 Mustang. With its legendary Rolls-Royce Merlin engine and its ability to carry external drop tanks, this was the plane they had been dreaming of. It finally had the legs to go all the way to Berlin and back, and it had the performance to take on Germany's best fighters and win. The cavalry had arrived. And the difference the Mustang made was immediate, and it was dramatic. Look at this. On Black Thursday, unescorted, they lost 26% of their force. By the middle of 1944, with P-51s clearing the way, that loss rate plummeted to below 5%. It was the winning combination, the defensive firepower of the combat box and the offensive punch of the Mustang that finally broke the back of the Luftwaffe for good. So the crucial takeaway here is this. The combat box was never meant to be the entire solution. It was the shield. It was the incredible innovation that allowed the bomber crews to survive, to endure those horrific losses long enough for the sword, the long-range escort, to finally arrive. It kept the entire daylight bombing campaign alive when it was right on the brink of extinction. When you look back, the story of the combat box is so much more than just a tactical innovation from World War II. It's really a powerful lesson in problem-solving under the most extreme pressure imaginable. And it leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? What seemingly impossible problems can we solve today when we bring together that same powerful combination of unflinching analysis, human ingenuity, and just the sheer, raw courage to see it through?